Welcome to Rise Untold, where the stories behind the spotlight come alive. The curtain has fallen on one of Hollywood's most commanding figures. Terence Stamp, the man who brought intensity, elegance, and unforgettable presence to the screen, is being remembered across the world. Hollywood is paying tribute, fans are mourning, and colleagues are recalling the moments that defined him both on and off camera. For many, Stamp will forever be remembered as General Zod in Superman and Superman 2. That menacing stare, that deep, commanding voice, the unforgettable demand, "Kneel before Zod." It became a line etched into cinematic history, yet behind the stern exterior of his most famous role was a man loved for his wit, his warmth, and his unwavering professionalism. News of his passing shook the industry, and tributes poured in almost immediately. Among them was Valerie Perrine, his Superman co-star. She played Miss Teschmacher, but sadly she and Stamp never shared a scene together. Still, her admiration for him was boundless. "R.I.P. Terence Stamp," she wrote, "a phenomenal actor. And a beautiful man. I admired his body of work. He will be missed. Kneel before Zod." It was a heartfelt farewell, not just from one performer to another, but from someone who understood the weight of his legacy. Producers and directors who worked with Stamp echoed the same. Gail Ann Hurd, one of Hollywood's most influential producers known for The Walking Dead, The Terminator, and Aliens, remembered working with him on the 1988 sci-fi action film Alien Nation. She compared him to another of Hollywood's legendary actors, Peter O'Toole. To her, Stamp was not just brilliant, but one of the rare performers whose presence on screen was mesmerizing in a way very few could match. But perhaps the most moving. Tribute came from director Edgar Wright. In 2021, Wright directed Stamp in what would unknowingly become his final big-screen performance, the psychological horror film Last Night in Soho. For Wright, it was not just an honor, but an experience. Filled with small, unforgettable moments, Wright recalled one late-night shoot. Stamp, now older, endured the grueling hours with quiet professionalism. In one scene, his character had to exit a pub through a basement staircase. Looking at the setup, Stamp deadpanned, "This shot isn't going to be in the movie." When Wright asked why, Stamp replied, "This staircase isn't good enough to be in a movie." The crew erupted in laughter. Wright promised him the shot would make the cut. And it did. It was, as Wright put it, one of the funniest things ever, said to him on a set. A moment of levity, forever etched into his memory. It's in moments like these that the measure of a man is revealed. For all his accolades, all his iconic roles, Stamp never lost the ability to laugh, to lighten the atmosphere, and to connect with those around him. His career stretched over 6 decades, from his early breakout in the 1960s to roles in films like The Collector, Far from the Madding Crowd, and Star Wars: The Phantom Menace. Stamp proved time and again that he was more than just a character actor. He was a force of nature. His face, his voice, his presence. They carried weight in every frame, but beyond the films, beyond the characters, Terence Stamp was remembered as a man of dignity and grace, a man who left an impression on everyone he worked with, a man who reminded audiences of the power of performance and fellow actors of the standard of professionalism. Hollywood has lost many icons, but Stamp's passing feels particularly heavy. Perhaps it's because he represented a kind of actor that feels increasingly rare today, one who balanced power with restraint, one who could dominate a scene with a whisper as much as with a shout. The outpouring of grief has not just been from colleagues, but from fans worldwide. Generations grew up watching him, whether as General Zod or in his countless other roles across genres. Each tribute, each memory shared, paints the picture of an actor who was as respected as he was loved. And now, in the silence left behind, there is reflection. His final bow came in Last Night in Soho, a haunting and beautiful film that now feels like a fitting curtain call. It's as if fate allowed him one last chance to show the world what he could do before gently drawing the spotlight away. His loss reminds us how fragile time is and how precious legacies are. Terence Stamp may no longer be here, but his body of work remains immortal. Every line delivered, every scene stolen, every character brought to life. They are all still here, and they will outlive us all. As fans, as admirers, we honor him, not by mourning in silence, but by revisiting the worlds he gave us. By remembering the strength of Zod, the wit of his Soho performance, and the grace of the man behind it all. If there's one thing to take away from the tributes pouring in, it's that Terence Stamp was more than just an actor. He was a storyteller. And in the end, that's what great actors leave us with: stories that never fade, performances that never die. So tonight, perhaps we look back on his career with gratitude. Perhaps we revisit Superman and hear once more the command that defined an era: kneel before Zod. Perhaps we find comfort in knowing that legends don't disappear. They live on in the glow of the screen, in the hearts of those who remember, and in the echoes of the words they leave behind. Terence Stamp has taken his final bow, but the applause will never stop. For some men, the curtain falls and the lights dim forever. But for a man like Stamp, whose very soul was woven into the fabric of cinema, the echoes carry on, because when a man dedicates his life to art, he becomes eternal. He leaves behind more than roles or performances. He leaves behind a presence, a reminder that he once stood before us, larger than life, shaping the way we felt, the way we dreamed, and the way we understood stories. It is easy to think of actors as fleeting, faces that come and go, projects that fade, names that vanish with time. But every so often, there comes one whose impact cannot be contained by decades or even by death. Terence Stamp was such a man. His voice, sharp yet magnetic, will always thunder in the background of cinema's history. His eyes, filled with a mix of authority and mystery, will always stare back at us from the screen. And his craft, honed with discipline and passion, will remain a benchmark for those who come after. If you think about it, his journey was never just about playing roles. It was about transformation. He rose from obscurity, from the same uncertainty and struggle that every artist faces in the beginning. He had no guarantee of success, no certainty of recognition. But he worked, he persisted, and he endured. And because of that, he broke through. He dominated the stage, commanded the screen, and carved his place among the unforgettable. That is not luck, that is not chance. That is proof of will, proof of resilience, proof that greatness is never handed. It is built, and isn't that the lesson for all of us? His life wasn't just a story for the industry. It was a blueprint for anyone who has ever dreamed, anyone who has ever wondered if they had the strength to rise. Terence Stamp did not rise because the world made room for him. He rose because he demanded it. He showed up with the force of someone who knew his worth, even before the world acknowledged it. That is why his legacy shines so brightly. To survive decades in Hollywood, to constantly evolve, to remain relevant and powerful even in the later years of life, that is no small feat. It required him to endure rejection, to navigate the highs and lows, to sacrifice comfort for craft. And yet, he never stopped. He never surrendered. That is what makes him not just memorable, but eternal. If he could rise from obscurity, dominate the stage, command the screen, and leave behind a legacy that continues to inspire, maybe you too can rise. In your own way, in your own story. Maybe you too can take the uncertainty of today and shape it into the triumph of tomorrow. Maybe you too can demand your place in a world that does not easily give it. Because if there's anything his life reminds us, it's that survival is not enough. Rising means more. Rising means carving your own path when the road is unclear. Rising means turning every scar, every hardship, every rejection into fuel. Rising means refusing to be forgotten. So let this not just be a farewell to Terence Stamp, but a reminder to everyone watching. His story is not only his own. It belongs to anyone who has ever been underestimated, anyone who has ever been told they are not enough, anyone who has ever doubted themselves. His story is proof that you can rise. If he could survive that, the struggle, the silence, the years of uncertainty, and still rise, maybe you can too. And if you do, remember. The curtain may one day fall, but if you dedicate your life to something greater than yourself, the applause will never end.